Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to a Wednesday edition of the program. It's Pod Up with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Got a really good show lined up today. We're going to crank it up here in just a second with FloridaGators.com senior writer Chris Harry. Talk a little Gator hoops. They got a big win last night in game one of the year. And then second portion, we're going to have Rocky Bleier, former Pittsburgh Steeler. He'll be at an event at Spurrier's on Monday to raise funds for the Florida Rising Stars Project. Talk a little bit about him, that event, and a little bit about his life story, which is amazing. But first, let's head to the Titan & More hotline, and we're joined by our good friend Chris Harry. Good morning, Chris. How are you?
Good morning, Shane. I got to ask you. So, you and I are from different generations. So, look, kind of. Hey, do you even remember Rocky Bleier playing? Because I do.
Absolutely. I think I had a bunch of Rocky Bleier football cards back in the day.
Really?
Okay. You know, that what people don't understand. So my dad obviously was athletic director and football coach for 30-something years in the Mississippi high school public school system. My mom was always a teacher. So obviously I had to do well in school starting at a young age.
Very problematic for you, yeah.
So for every A I made on my report card, starting like first grade, I would get a box, not just a pack, a box of either football or baseball cards.
Nice.
And I didn't make a B until like I was a junior in high school. So I got a ton of football and baseball cards. I don't know if they're worth anything, but I was born in '70, so I got a bunch of the Steel Curtain, those Pittsburgh Steelers teams in the early 70s. What, they won 4 straight titles, I think?
4 out of 6 years. 4 out of 6 years. Yeah, they never won 4 straight, yeah. But you know what? They did a made-for-TV movie about Rocky Bleier, and the guy whoever played the detective in the TV show Vegas played Rocky Bleier. Whoever that guy was, I'm brain cramping right now, but they did actually make and you did say his story is incredible, and obviously it is from the, being in the Vietnam War and what have you, and then winning 4 Super Bowls, amazing.
No question. Anyway, Evan, I need you to log in, Evan, and find my stuff. So Chris, last night, Mike White and his crew with his new squad with a lot of new faces win last night. Before we get into the game, who was the starting 5? Okay,
well, it was Colin Castleton and Anthony DeRucci. Those are 2 of your 3 starting returnees. Now, had everything gone the way it had in the exhibition game, this close scrimmage against North Carolina and then the exhibition last week against Embry-Riddle, Flan Fleming would have started alongside Myron Jones and Brandon McKissick. But Fleming was held out of practice a bunch the last 5 days, non-contact stuff because of a groin injury. They started Tyree Appleby. So 3 of the 5 starters from last year were in the starting lineup last night in the opening win against Elon. The final score was 74-61. Florida was up 28 points 3 minutes into the second half, and things got really messy and sloppy. Not necessarily with turnovers as much as missed shots and just some missed assignments on defense. They gave up a couple of offensive rebounds that they didn't do, but they had a comfortable enough lead that nothing like no kind of disaster was ever expected or could have been foreseen or anything. But there's stuff they got to clean up, and certainly have to clean up quick with what's going to happen this weekend.
So with the new guys, the additions to the program, did you like the way they played, the way they competed? Just tell us a little bit, because you couldn't watch this game on regular SEC Network. There was SEC Network Plus, and I'm not even sure how you get that. But since we didn't get to see it, what did some of the new guys do well?
Well, one of the common denominators that you've seen from the close scrimmage against North Carolina, which was the last weekend in October, the exhibition game against Embry-Riddle last week, and then this game. The ball is moving better. The people are moving better. There's a commitment on the defensive side that seems a lot better. And the ball, when I say ball moving, I mean moving on the perimeter. They're getting inside touches, their screens, and just there's some stuff going on that just looks a lot better than it has in recent seasons. And I think a lot of it has to do with these older guys, man. I mean, these new transfers. I mentioned three of them. The third was C.J. Felder by way of Boston College. You got Fleming from Charleston Southern. You got McKissick from Missouri, Kansas City, and you got Myron Jones from Penn State. These guys have scored upwards of over 3,600 points combined. They've started over close to 100 games combined. I mean, this is a battle-tested veteran team, the likes of which they haven't had around here recently. 2 years ago, or I guess the season, Kerry Blackshear here, and all the expectations started sixth in the country. It was the youngest team in the SEC by all the Ken Pom metrics. Last year's was I think 11th youngest in the SEC by those same metrics. This team, I don't know those metrics are out yet. I can check on them by the time. But this team's going to be much, much older. That's the way it's going to be right now with the transfer portal. But I think their ability to compete, the willingness to move the ball, and certainly the willingness on the defensive end are going to be the hallmarks of this team. They just got to put it together. They're still trying to find some chemistry, being these new guys all thrown together. All told, we're talking about 8 transfers out of the 13 scholarship players on the team.
So having said all that, it sounds like at times they may have trouble scoring the basketball. They'll probably go through spurts, right?
Yeah, because I don't think this is a great shooting basketball team. I think they're going to I think they can score, but I'm not sure they're great at shooting. And the last 2 games, and this may be kind of what happens with this team. In the Embry-Riddle game, Brandon McKissick jumped out, had a hot hand. Like, I want to say it was early in the second half, the beginning of the second half, and he went on a run, and he ends up with 20 points. Last night, Myron Jones hadn't scored he's the best shooter on the team. He didn't have a 3-point make in the first game and a half, and then he hit one in the second half. It was a 4-point play, actually, falling out of bounds. He got fouled, and he ended up with 4 threes, and he scores 20 points. So one of these guys, and it could be Colin Castleton on another night. He had 18 last night, so he had a good game, but 17 were in the first half. Kind of testament. He missed a dunk in the second half. So that speaks to kind of the sloppiness I was referencing before. This was a great free throw shooting team last year, Shane. The 5th best, I think, free throw shooting team in the history of the school, the best since 1976. And they weren't very good from the free throw line. I think they missed 13 free throws last night. Castleton, 78% free throw shooter, was 4 of 11 from the free throw line last night. So kind of missed kind of things. But what I think you're going to see is one of these transfers, one of these older guys, Tyree Appleby, Castleton, DeRougie, one of them, it could be different guys every night with this team. And as long as they're okay with that, as long as they don't have built-in agendas, someone among themselves thinking, I need to get mine, I think this team will be okay and kind of find its way. They're not yet there, but they have a chance if their maturity and their team first kind of mentality that they talk about. They're saying all the right things now, and that always happens until the minutes are distributed. If that continues along this path.
We're speaking with Chris Harry here on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline. Turn your car or truck into a rolling billboard for your business or brand with an eye-catching vehicle wrap from Rat Spot this November. Mention promo code Shane and receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. All right, so Chris, do you think you talk about the ball was moving a lot, looked a little bit different on offense. Do you think the new additions to the coaching staff may have helped in that area?
Well, I think they probably changed things in that area. There's just some conceptual things that these guys probably some ideas. Now, Mike doesn't have to listen to them at all, but right. I just think different. I think it's good when coaches move around and new blood comes in and it re-energizes things. And I'm not saying anything negative with regards to Darius Nichols and Jordan Mincy, who won their debut last night, by the way, as head coaches at Radford and JU, respectively. But I mean, it's a different vibe in the locker room with these, or excuse me, in the practice gym with these guys, and I always think that's a good thing. Eric Pastrada, by way of Oklahoma State, and Akeem Miskdeen, who came from Florida Atlantic, have brought a little something to the program, and whether or not that's translating in terms of X's and O's and stuff. Yes, I think it has a little bit, but I think right now it's more the veteran kind of the stripes that these guys are wearing. These guys have all played a lot of basketball, and they have to lean on that those experience that they've had to if they're going to be as successful as they can be.
I think before, once basketball ended or when all the transfers were happening, the Gator Nation was so concerned. We got all these guys leaving the program. We're not even close to half the schools in the SEC. I was flipping through the channels last night. Tennessee, they said they have 18 kids on their roster, which is a huge basketball roster.
Yeah.
Kentucky, they have a few freshmen, but they're made up of upperclassmen now that have transferred in. Duke has a ton of transfers. Where did we rank once it was all said and done in the SEC?
Well, Georgia and Texas A&M each had 9 guys leave. And when Florida's 4th guy left, it was built as a mass exodus going on. So 4 transfers, guys leaving. I mean, one went to Samford, one went to JU. Omar Payne obviously went to Illinois. He started last night. He had 3 points and 4 rebounds in that game. Noah Locke went to Louisville. He wanted to be the point guard here. That wasn't going to happen. So, with the free year now, especially the COVID free year, and you get transfer for free, you don't have to sit out. That's going to be this is the way it's going to be. The COVID year is going to be out, obviously, as that expires with some of these guys here now. But if you don't have to wait and transfer, that's some leverage that a coach doesn't have anymore as far as hanging over a guy to make him change his ways, do some stuff differently, what have you. But I think Florida was tied with maybe Kentucky and Auburn with 4 outgoing transfers. All told, Shane, I did 86 guys transferred in the Southeastern Conference last season.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That is crazy. We got a text on the Titan number text line. It says, good morning, fellas. Shane, I know y'all have mentioned several times, I think we're switching gears here to football, but Chris knows a little bit about football too. Several times about the weirdness of Wake and North Carolina playing a game that was not considered a conference game. And although I know it would never happen in the SEC, it wouldn't hurt my feelings to see Florida and Auburn playing out of conference game. I really miss Florida playing Auburn every year. If you're going to schedule Power 5 such as Texas, Utah, and Colorado, why not Auburn for a home and home? Thanks for the text, Ryan. You got any comments on that, Chris, about how Wake and North Carolina played last week, but it didn't count in the conference?
That wasn't a conference game?
No. It makes no sense. So that's a good research project for you. But yeah, it was not a conference game. Now,
I was watching that game. It looked like a basketball. What was it, 58-55, right? I was watching that game. I mean, Wake Forest is like humming around, trying to get to the Orange Bowl and maybe sneak backdoor into the conversation. And now they're still undefeated in the conference. Yep,
they're still undefeated in the conference. They're kind of taken out of the 14 playoff now with that loss, but yeah, it's pretty bizarre.
They were probably never in it anyway. So yeah, I don't have an answer for that, but that is something that I may kick around with the ADs just to be a little more formed about it. So I apologize to Ryan for not knowing more about it.
Yeah,
he broke some news.
I should know. I even knew last week that it wasn't a non-conference game.
I just thought Notre Dame had played non-conference games in the ACC. I didn't know. Wake Forest and North Carolina is like a 70-year-old rivalry or something.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Let's go back to the preseason rankings for the conference. I'll be honest, I didn't follow it. Where did the coaches or the writers have the Gators in the conference?
By and large, it was right at their middle of the pack, 6th or 7th, I'd say. I think the first bracketology from Lenardi came out this week. They have them as a 10 seed out west. So start packing your bag already. So that would be 5 straight NCAA tournaments. I'm sure people would sign off on that right now, but I'm sure the Gators also have higher aspirations than to be a 10 seed. They were a 6 seed last year, and again, that's a long way away. They got some good non-conference games coming up, including one against Florida State on Sunday. Seminoles won 7 straight in the series, the longest winning streak in that series by either team. I know it's very frustrating for a lot of Florida fans to have seen that happen, but Leonard Hamilton's done a great job flipping the state in his direction since Billy Donovan left. They got a good team, man, and they got 4 7-footers. They're the same team. They're just like got one of those teams that you see every time Florida State trots it out. They'll play incredibly. They're long, athletic, and they'll play a hyena-like defense. So Florida again has to fix some of that stuff. They can't have the sloppiness against Florida State because those would turn into pick 6 layups on the other side.
Got a text here on the Titan Mart text line. It comes from Larry. Larry wants to know, Chris, who could be our sleeper in the Southeastern Conference this year?
Who could be a sleeper in the Southeastern Conference this year? Well, Kentucky was 11-15 last year, so people will probably have higher expectations for them. But Ole Miss. You're a big Ole Miss guy. I know that, Shane. But Ole Miss had its best recruiting class ever. They got their first McDonald's All-American ever. They're just somebody to watch. I just think that the league is pretty balanced. There are a lot of good players, but I mean, this transfer thing, until you get them in and you see again, like 86 of them, 86 went out. That means just pretty close to just as many came in. So I want to get a hold of what's going on, how these teams are looking. I know Arkansas was struggling a little bit last night with Mercer, but they went to the Elite Eight last year. So I don't have a pulse of the SEC right now like I normally would.
Yeah, and I was watching, like I said, I was flipping through the channels since I couldn't watch our game. I watched a little bit of Kansas playing Michigan State. And, of course, I can't even remember the guy's name. Some dude from Kansas goes to the free throw line, and they put up the schools where he has played. It was like Illinois, Iowa State, at some other school, and now he's at Kansas. And I'm like, are you serious? This is his fourth school. It's crazy. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's incestuous at times, too, because, I mean, Georgia's point guard, who's played very well in games against Florida, Severe Wheeler, is now the point guard for Kentucky. What's his name? I'm trying to think. Xavier Pinkins, the 2-guard from Missouri, is now a 2-guard at LSU. So there's a lot of cross-pollination here relative to the league, and it's going to be a little different seeing these guys in those uniforms. So again, I apologize to Ryan again. I got to see these teams and get a feel of how these teams are kind of meshing, because Kentucky's business model, Shane, as you know, and everyone knows, used to be one and done. That's what he recruited on. I think he's got 5 transfers now. He just got a guy. He got a guy from Davidson, who I think is the number 2 or number 3 all-time scorer behind Steph Curry and somebody else there who everyone think is going to be a really good player. I don't think he had a great game last night, but let's see how Kentucky plays with this new kind of business model, because they had some transfers last year, and I think they went 11-15.
Did Mike White wear a sport coat last night or a golf shirt?
Last night was like the long sleeve kind of collared stuff. No, they're not. They're not.
So he's still dressed up, because there was talk on watching TV last night, because all the coaches in that tournament had just a quarter zip pullover or just a golf shirt on.
Yeah. Those guys had quarter zips on with maybe something, maybe a collar under.
Right. But the days of coaches having to wear a coat and tie, I think, are over due to COVID. And I've never understood why basketball coaches wore suits anyway. Never made sense to me.
Like managers wearing baseball uniforms, right?
Correct. That's dumb.
Billy Donovan used to, you remember, sport coat was off, or that jacket was off. His suit jacket was off. He went to the NBA. Excuse me. They had a rule that the head coach couldn't take his jacket off. Drove him crazy. But now he's strutting up and down in the kind of casual wear. Looks good. Looks more comfortable, and maybe that's why the Bulls are doing really well now. Maybe
touch on the Bulls. They're having a heck of a start this year.
They are. They're 7-3, and I think 2 of their last 3 games, they've had their biggest fourth quarter comebacks in franchise history. So that's kind of saying something, considering some of the bloodlines that have gone through the Chicago Bulls. But I know Billy D is really happy up there. They weren't very good last year. They made some moves in the offseason, and at the trade deadline last year, become a good team. And then while I got, here's my Washington Bullets hat on. They're 7-3 also, and Brad Beal has a good team for the first time, which is good for him because he's about to face a decision on a contract that could make him the highest paid player in NBA basketball history. So if he wants to stay in Washington, because he's been there, because they drafted him, because it would be, I think, his third max he'd be able to become, because of the longevity of the contract with the same team, the highest paid per year player in NBA history.
What are your thoughts on that? Do you think he's going to hang out in Washington, or do you think he's want a change of scenery?
Well, everything. I mean, I talked to the guy. Obviously, he was here as Mr. Two Bits for the Alabama game a couple months ago. But I know he loves Washington. I know he's moved his family there, and I know how this works. I mean, he's a chip in the. You always see Miami's going to get him, Boston's going to get him. I mean, teams, the Lakers want Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal says he loves Washington and wants to be the centerpiece of the turnaround there. And they made a huge deal. They got three pretty good players: Kyle Kuzma, they got Kadarius Caldwell Pope, and I think Montrezl Harrell from the Lakers for Russell Westbrook. And so now Bradley Beal is the centerpiece of that team, but he's got some guys around him, some good young players, some guys that are injured right now that are going to get back. So I know this. Nobody knows anything about the Washington Wizards. I only know this because I've followed the team for my whole life or whatever. But and I am a Bradley Beal fan, and he's an awfully good player in this league right now.
He's so good, and he's a guy that you could poll America, and majority of people wouldn't know who the hell Bradley Beal is. Yeah,
and if he was 6'6" instead of 6'4.5", if he was 6'6" or 6'7", he'd be Kobe Bryant, I think. I mean, he is so skilled offensively, and I tell you what, he's got a new coach this year, Wes Unseld Jr., and he's convinced the guy to start playing defense a little better because that wasn't Bradley's forte in the NBA. He was pretty good at it here in his 1 year that was here, but that's just something that Gator fans, we may see more of him as if this team is truly a better team.
How many Gators we have on rosters right now in the NBA?
I want to say it's 5, but I'm not 100% sure. Chris Chioza, I think Corey Brewer is still bouncing around somewhere.
Is Udonis still on the Miami Heat roster?
Al Horford is also playing. And I think Michael Frazier is in. There's some G League guys too, also. So
I can't believe Udonis is still suiting up, and I know he doesn't play; he's just more of a coach. But good gracious, he's been playing forever. Chris, before we let you go,
didn't you throw him passes?
I feel like he was playing basketball when I was in school. What year did he graduate?
2001, I think. 2001.
So he's been in the league for 20 years.
Yeah, this is 20 season, I think, and maybe even his 21st. Yeah.
Wow. That's
actually, you know what? He was overseas. He lost all that weight and came back and was a linchpin on that first Miami Heat team when Dwayne Wade and Shaq won it. But he came out of nowhere and then just stuck around and was obviously a glue guy for those LeBron James teams and what have you.
Yeah, that's great. All right, before we let you go, I got to ask you to get your thoughts. I mean, you obviously still cover a little bit of football as well. Just your thoughts on how the season's gone on the gridiron this year.
Not well. Is that going to? I mean, it's 3 straight losses, and I think fans just want some things to be encouraged about. And maybe a couple weeks or a few weeks ago, it was the Anthony Richardson performance off the bench, and then some unfortunate things happened for him. The Georgia game, obviously, but then the concussion, and then of course dancing, and they need some positivity to start emanating from this program. And a game against Sanford gives you an opportunity to go out and get a victory. I don't know that that's the kind of red meat that Florida fans are looking right now, but they got some of it the last few days with the staff changes and what have you. But I think they want to see more, and they want to see better. And if I'm Dan Mullen, I'm pounding my fist and I can't wait to get to the off season and talk about that $90 million football facility that I know you're a big fan of, Shane, and you think could be a potential game changer. But that's something that when it comes to recruiting,
you got to win too, though. That's
true.
the difference.
That's true. But is that how it worked with Clemson? Or they start making all those commitment to those facilities? Because I remember them getting beat 70-30 something in an Orange Bowl a while back, and I don't know if those facilities were on campus right there, right? So, or maybe they were there already. But yes, you do have to win, and you got to look you have to look better doing it, and you got to have a plan, and everyone hopes that that's the situation with Dan Mullen, and obviously Scott Strickland believes in him because of the staff changes that were made. But I mean, you do have to. Let's see it.
Brad has a text here before we let you go on the Titan MR text line. Chris, what do we have to do to beat FSU in basketball?
Well, you got to be as tough as FSU because for the last 7 years, I mean, Leonard Hamilton's teams are the same teams. They have an identity. They're up in your face. Their defense. They're physical, and Florida has to match that. And it hasn't happened the last few years. Obviously, I mean the last year was a little bit of an outlier, obviously, because that was the Keontae Johnson game. The Gators were playing great to start. I think the score was 11-3 in that timeout when Keontae came out. He just had an alley-oop dunk on a fast break, and things were positive then. But the whole, obviously, what happened there obviously flipped everything. But they have to play better, and they can't back down to the physicality that FSU is going to bring on the floor. That is just their calling card, and it's not going to change as long as Leonard Hamilton is there.
Okay, you brought up Keontae. What's his status right now? I know he's got that $5 million insurance policy, but he's not going to play basketball ever again for the Gators, correct?
He's sitting. I mean, the family has not announced his intentions, but he sits down at the end of the bench. He's he does what he can during practice. He steps out there and runs drills sometimes, but his status has not changed as far as his health condition and how it applies to the Florida basketball roster right now. But he wants to play one day, but he's not playing with this team right now.
Yeah. Okay. You're a big Redskins fan. What's going on with your Redskins?
Who?
The Washington football team guys.
I mean, I thought they were going to have a good defense this year, like a lot of people did, and it's been like horrific, like one of the worst in the league. So I think the going 7-9 and making the playoffs and throwing a scare into the Bucks was probably the worst thing that could have happened to a team in an utter rebuild. And as I know, Shane, you had some of your best times as a Gator, or excuse me, as an NFL player in a Washington uniform. As long as a certain person is there, that team is that franchise, that organization is going to spin its wheels. And I don't think there's any chance that person, the owner of the football team, is going to be leaving anytime soon.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, Chris, good stuff as always. You can follow Chris on Twitter because he tweets during the games. If you can't watch it on SEC Network Plus, you can follow Chris Harry's Twitter at Gators Chris. Good stuff, my man. We appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Shane. You take care. See you.
Yeah, Chris Harry, join us on the Titan MR hotline. We're going to take our first time out. Come back. Hopefully we'll be joined by Rocky Bleier, former Pittsburgh Steeler, talking about his event with the Florida Rising Stars Project on Monday night. You're watching and listening to Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, won't back down. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Great Clips, it's gonna be great. Our Gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, South State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co. Some of our touchdown sponsors are MB Listing, McDonald's of Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Avera and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Ruse Ogra Agent, State Farm Insurance, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar, If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the Advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Spend an evening with the great Rocky Bleier and support our community's youth. You can meet this true American war hero and football champion November 15th at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Visit FloridaRisingStars.com for tickets, event, and sponsor information.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration points where the Gators go to celebrate with premium brands like Nike, Prime and Pearl, Regal Cinemas, Medici, Dave & Buster's, Skechers, and the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Make your reservations today at spurriers.com. And don't forget that Visor's Tailgate and Rooftop Bar are now open Thursday through Saturday. We will see you at Celebration Point where the Gators go to celebrate. We're now going to head to the Titan MR hotline. And we're going to be joined by a very special guest, Mr. Rocky Bleier. Good morning, Rocky. How are you?
I'm Shane. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. I appreciate you take the time to join our program. We'll talk about what you have going on in Gainesville a little bit later in the program on Monday night. But I want to start out, when I have former players on my show, I like to go back to their younger days. And you grew up in Wisconsin and were a tremendous athlete there. And I know back in those days, Notre Dame was the team. Did you always want to be playing for the Irish?
No, excuse me, not really. And I think that, your viewers have to put time and into perspective. So you think about the early 60s, in my case, and so on, and going to high school, the media exposure wasn't as great as it is today. There's only 3 stations. You've heard all this story before, shut down at midnight. So, and high school, well, I got some recognition because of the team that I played on. And so the University of Wisconsin was a big pursuer, as were some other colleges. And Notre Dame was there, but not necessarily number one. And we weren't big Notre Dame fans. We weren't actually big anybody fans at that time. And so probably the best advice I received as a recruit came from the coaching staff at Notre Dame. And it was this great sales pitch, but I thought it was very, very apropos. And he said, listen, you're going to get a lot of scholarships, and we're going to do a lot of visits to a lot of schools. And every time that you go to that school, they're going to roll out that red carpet, and show you a good time and everything that highlights. So when you have to make that decision later on of where you're going to go, it gets somewhat confusing. He said, my recommendation is to choose 3 schools that you would like to graduate from. Not necessarily play football at, but graduate from, because anything can happen during that period of time from an injury perspective, etc. And I thought, well, that just made, greatest sense. And so Notre Dame was one, University of Wisconsin was another, and Boston College was another. And then, as I like to tell people, I said I did what every good Catholic boy was taught to do, and that was to, go to church and pray for guidance and direction. And then, like every good Catholic boy, I did what my mother wanted me to do, and that was to go to Notre Dame.
That's great. That's great. You go to Notre Dame, and obviously you win a national championship there, and then you get drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. And you're very fortunate because not only did you win a national championship, you won 4 Super Bowls. There's guys, I was fortunate to play 14 years. I was on some bad football teams. I never even made it to a Super Bowl, and you won 4 of them. Just talk a little bit about, obviously, you go to the Steelers, and after your rookie year, you're drafted in the Army to go to Vietnam. First of all, educate us. Were there a lot of football players playing professionally that were drafted to the Army?
No, I wouldn't say a lot. There was a handful that I was aware of, that got drafted at the same time that I did. There was a teammate of mine from Notre Dame who was the second round draft choice for the Cleveland Browns, Tommy Shane. And Tommy gets drafted out of training camp his rookie year. And I think it was the latter part of August or 1st of September. I didn't get drafted until December. There was another there was another player from the University of Minnesota who I went through basic training with, and who happened to be from Pittsburgh. And so, so there was a handful that fell through what we call the cracks at that time. And because in 1968 was the height of the war. We had 500,000 personnel over in Vietnam. And so bodies were needed. There was no lottery then. It was just the draft choice and draft system. And so, some of us kind of just fell through that crack. And, I got my draft notification in early December to report.
So from a mental standpoint, obviously you've been playing ball your whole life. You're with the Pittsburgh Steelers as a rookie, and now you have to go to basic training, get ready to go to Vietnam. Mentally, what was it like? And just tell us kind of what you had to go through.
Well, in all honesty, you've been there. So it was like every training camp that you've ever gone through, So, there's an anticipation about what was going to take place. The only reference that I had about the military was what movies I've ever saw in the past, and going through boot camp or whatever it might be, and sergeants yelling and screaming at you, and all that was true. And so but I think the factor was that we've been through training camps. We've been through push-ups and running and coaches yelling at you and organizational and you got to kind of just get into a mindset where it's just very functional. You go, okay, fine, this is what I have to do today. You kind of get through that as your best you possibly can, and then you move on. So I think the biggest thing, or the biggest shock to me at the time, wasn't so much having to go through basic training. Was when you got there, you just kind of mindset to go through it. But it was the fact that I got my draft notification on a Wednesday to report the following morning at 7 a.m. to be inducted into the service. And I'm going, don't they give you some time? I mean, don't they give you like a week to get your stuff together? And so it was delayed in the mail, whatever the reasons were, but that was the biggest thing. So I had to hustle and get some things to get all my personal stuff out of Pittsburgh or back home, and then just that whole change of moving. So that was so you're just kind of in shock, basically.
Yeah.
You're going boom, and if I had a week to think about it, maybe things would have been different. But it was like, oh, man, you're gone, and you just go on.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, over there, you're injured. I can't even imagine what the battlefield was like, but you injure your right foot and you have a bunch of surgeries on it, I believe. And the doctors basically said, you're never going to play football again. But you weren't going to take that to heart. You were going to do whatever you could to get back on the football field, right?
Well, I think one of the things that we learned, Shane, is that as from a competition point of view, just from an athletic point of view, that whether you start playing in the backyard in organized sports and rec, in neighborhood sports or rec league, or is that, as kids growing up and within the sport, we have injuries. We get scrapes and bruises, and you get a sprain here, and you get a bump here. You might break a finger there along the way, and then you kind of learn a process. And the process is, it hurts. Then you see somebody, and then you kind of heal, go through a little rehab, and then you're back out playing in the yard again. And so my mindset was basically that. And as an athlete, you do get hurt, and so you just and I think the perspective from my point of view was that, okay, I didn't lose a limb, I didn't lose an arm. It was damage. Okay, fine. You give me time, we'll see what happens. And then ultimately, like all of us, I think that the mindset is, okay, I can only do what I can do. I can only work out. I can only take care of my body. I can't control what my future may be, and I can't control what the owners of the Steelers may think, or the coaching staff may think. All I can do is put myself in a position to try to come back, and make this team. the biggest focus was that's what I wanted to do. So you have to have a kind of a goal in mind. It wasn't as if I wanted to go back and become a doctor or a lawyer or any of that. That was my focus. And so all my effort and attention, like all of us, was just focused on trying to get yourself into a position where they can give you an opportunity, and then it's up to you to what you do with the opportunity.
No doubt about it. We got a text here on the Titan Mark text line. Speaking of the owner, Steven says, I read that Art Rooney, who's the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers for all our listeners, sent you a postcard when you were in the hospital. What did that mean to you?
Well, that meant everything at the time, because I had just come out of the field hospital and I was shipped over to Tokyo. And after a couple of weeks, as the story goes, I finally got enough courage within myself to ask my attending physician there what he thought about the damage that it did happen. I said, well, do you think that I can come back and play? And he was the one that said, don't worry about it. You'll have a normal life. Don't expect to get back. You won't have the strength or the flexibility to do the things, from his perspective, to be a running back in the NFL. Well, as an authority figure, so it's an amazing thing what the impact that we have on people, no matter what we may do. But as my authority figure, he just kind of sucked that hope right out. Well, on 2 days later, honest to goodness, I get this postcard in the mail, simple postcard. It said, Rock, team's not doing well. We need you. Art Rooney. Well, they didn't need me, but it was the kind. It was the thing. Wow, somebody cares, or somebody's aware of the situation, and that meant a great deal to me at that time.
Yep, and so you do get back. It takes you about a year or so to get your body right to play in the NFL, because I read also you were down to like 180 pounds, and then you had to get back up to about 215, 220. And then, you were in the backfield with the great Franco Harris. You were on those Super Bowl teams where y'all won 4 out of 6 Super Bowl titles. Just talk a little bit about what it was like, you getting your body ready to play professional football again and just playing in the backfield with Franco Harris.
Well, there's two things. So it takes time, And so I come back in 1970, right out of the service. I'd been kind of working on getting myself ready to come to camp. And I went to training camp, and it took its toll. I mean, the training camp beat me up physically just because I really wasn't in. So the Steelers bought me a year. They put me in injured reserve. I had another operation. So I came back the following year, and I made the taxi squad. One step up. But anyway, so they bought me 2 years of an opportunity to heal, to get bigger, to get stronger, and so on. And you're right. I weighed 165 pounds, and when I came back, so if I could get back to 200 pounds, and then if I could get back to 210, which I normally played at that time. So it takes time, and so they bought me 2 years to be able to do that. And then I came back, and so I made the team on special teams in 1972. We get a young rookie running back by the name of Franco Harris, who comes in, immaculate reception, first time in 40 years. We go to the playoffs in that period of time. Come back the following year, a little bit bigger and a little bit stronger. I remember in 1973, I weighed 218 pounds. I bench pressed 465 pounds. I squatted 600 pounds. I had 18.5-inch biceps. And you know how come I knew that? Because I measured them myself anyway. So, there's a couple things here, which I think what they saw was this soldier who was coming back, and this player, was working so hard, and all of a sudden you could see over a period of time the development that had taken place. And so made the team, again in 1973, playing special teams. Never carried the ball, came back in 74. And then 74, there's a players' strike in 1974. Terry Bradshaw sitting on the bench. We have Joe Gilliam as the backup quarterback. Franco Harris is banged up. And so you're back playing the game. And so one of the excitements was that in 1974, I become the backup to the backup, which was pretty good for me at that time, getting off the special teams. And so Frenchy Fuqua was the backup, and he started at fullback, and Preston Beard years. And then Frenchie gets hurt in the fourth game, and Franco's still out, and I get put in the game at fullback. And then Franco comes back, and they move me over to the other running back, and we go all the way and win the division and get to the playoffs, and then go to the Super Bowl, that year as a starting running back. And then we play 6 more years together and win those 3 more Super Bowls thereafter. So, it's been an opportunity to be able to play. And then what you do with that opportunity, that becomes very important.
We got a text here, a couple of texts for you, Rocky, on the Titan MR text line. Elizabeth said, with tomorrow being Veterans Day, I just want to say thank you for your service. I echo that. And Mick, this is a good one here. Mick says, where were you when the Immaculate Reception happened? What was it like to experience that?
Well, so I was, as I had made mention, I was playing special teams, at the time. And so the offense was out on the field. And over the years, and I just want to say, I've run into about 386,417 people that saw the Immaculate Reception. I was there. I saw the Immaculate Reception. And my response was, no, you didn't. You didn't see it. You might have been there. I'm not saying that you weren't, but it's like an accident about to happen. And you're sitting in the stands. Clock's ticking down. It's 4th down, and 10 yards to go, and Bradshaw, he throws the ball, and all of a sudden it's Kareem. And what's normal reaction? Normal reaction is going, oh my goodness gracious! So you didn't see it, and I tell you that only because I'm down on the sidelines. The play's developing, and it's 4th down. Seconds on the clock, and I said to myself, "Oh, I can't watch this." And I turned around, and the next thing I heard was this roar that took place. And I go, "What happened? Franco scored! You're kidding me!" So then we run down into the end zone like everybody else and jump on the pile, and so on and so on. So yeah, I didn't see it until I saw the replays.
Yep, unbelievable play in NFL history. There's no question. You've had movies, you've written books. You got a Purple Heart, 4 Super Bowl rings. Do you have your rings and your Purple Heart kind of all in one area of your house, or where are they located?
Well, let me see. The Super Bowl rings are in the top drawer of my dresser. That's where they got a little box. They just sit there. And the Purple Heart is somewhere. Somewhere. Only the reason, because I recently moved, my wife and I, and so they're in a box somewhere, wherever that may be. I know.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Rocky, you're going to be in Gainesville the 15th, which is Monday night at Coach Spurrier's new restaurant. It's kind of a meet and greet. You get to tell your life story, kind of what you've done here, but a little bit better. Just tell everybody, you're doing this to help raise funds for the Florida Rising Stars Project. What it means to you to be able to do something like this.
Well, I think the future of sports and football are young players today coming up, and the support that they're able to get, the recognition, the fact that they can, that they can make something of and be a part of a group becomes very important. So part of it is that, we face challenges and we'll tell us stories, and I overcome obstacles, and that becomes very important. But you just have the opportunity to become what you want to become. And that's what sports are all about. And what the Rising Stars are, to be able to, your self-esteem and pick you up. And so I'm really looking forward to being there, being able to tell that message, but also share the evening with Steve Spurrier and all those who support the Rising Stars. And so I think it'll be a wonderful, wonderful thing. So at this point, of course, Shane, that's why we're here. So we want to come down and be a part of it.
Absolutely. And so people will be able to take pictures with Rocky. You'll sign autographs, and I'm sure there'll be some people showing up with some terrible towels for you to sign as well.
Well, it's Gator country down there, so we'll see.
Oh, there's some Pittsburgh people here. You'll be
good.
surprised. You'll be
All
surprised.
Right. Terrific.
Yep. But we appreciate you taking the time out of your day, Rocky, to join us. It's been a pleasure and honor to be able to speak with you, and we thank you for everything you've done, not only on the football field, in your community, in the country, and representing our country and all that good stuff. Great stuff, and I really do appreciate it.
Shane, thank you for having me. Really, in all honesty, and great meeting you over the airways, as they say. So we'll hopefully get to see you later. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's Rocky Bleier. Join us on the Titan MR hotline. Going to take our final time out today. Come back, wrap up this Wednesday edition.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, won't back down. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Great Clips, it's gonna be great. Our Gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, South State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Doreen Wiebe Realtor, Caldwell Banker, MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Rap Spot, Okito America, Gators Dockside, Style Cuts, Big Mills Cheesesteaks. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the Advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Hi, Steve Spurrier here. Making a reservation at my restaurant is easier than a Saturday afternoon homecoming game against Vandy. You don't have to call or email. Just go to spurriers.com, hit the reservation button, pick a date, a number of guests, and a time. It's so simple, I can do it. In fact, I just did. Maybe I'll see you tonight.
Spend an evening with the great Rocky Bleier and support our community's youth. You can meet this true American war hero and football champion November 15th at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Visit FloridaRisingStars.com for tickets, event, and sponsor information.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Center State Bank's now South State Bank, but we still put business first. We understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. South State still has 4 convenient Alachua County locations. South State Bank, banking forward, member FDIC. I want to thank Chris Harry from FloridaGators.com for joining us, talk a little Gator hoops after their win last night. They host the semis on Sunday. And then, of course, what an honor it was to interview Rocky Bleier. And if you want to hear his story and meet Rocky, you can go to FloridaRisingStarsProject.com. We'll also post it here on Facebook, where you can buy a ticket to meet and greet him at Coach Spurrier's restaurant November 15th, which is Monday night. I think it's from like 5:30 to 8. Should be a wonderful event for a great cause. Hope you enjoyed today's program as well, folks. Tomorrow, we'll have Brent Beard talking college football, get his thoughts on what's going on in the world of college football. We'll also crank back up Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup. First round of the playoffs start. Some games are tomorrow night, and then obviously majority of them are on Friday. But we'll get Mike Rideout and that crew talking high school sports. Today's show's a wrap, brought to you by Rap Spot. Enjoy your day. We'll see you tomorrow.